and welcome to PGS Reviews. I'm RM from Positive Fandom. PGS Reviews is a show that features you, members of the Post-Geek Singularity. This show was created so PGS members could share interests that stir the imagination. I'd like to welcome the Cinemike to the show. Welcome, how are you?
It's great. I am looking forward to discuss these two categories.
Yes, of course, we're going to be continuing our Oscar preview by looking at the nominees for Best Animated Feature and Best International Feature today. So, everybody who's out there, please like this video and subscribe to the channel and set alerts so you'll be notified every time the Burnett Network posts a new show or stream, or even whenever Positive Fandom posts a new show or stream. So let's get started with the first category, the Cinemike, um, of Best Animated Feature. The first animated feature to be nominated is one that has gotten a lot of attention, of
Yeah.
an animated feature called Encanto. And as we're both aware, it's gotten a lot of attention. It's in the United States, one of the songs in Encanto called We Don't Speak About Bruno.
We
Actually,
don't talk about Bruno. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, We Don't Talk About Bruno actually made it to a Billboard chart and has done incredibly well in the charts and in entertainment wise. And it is a culturally significant film with such amazing music because the music, and correct me if I'm wrong, is affiliated with Lin Manuel Garcia, who is involved in this project. I loved Encanto, and I thought it was just such a beautifully uh, created animated feature. What were your thoughts of the animated feature Encanto?
So yeah, Encanto, which is directed by Jared Bush and Byron Howard, who I believe they were also the ones behind Zootopia, which is also another great animated film. So yeah, as you said, Encanto is taking the world by storm. You know, So the film is nominated in as well in original score and song for one of the songs there, and then as you said, it's number one at the Billboard. We don't talk about Bruno. I believe as of the time that we are recording this, it's still number one in the Billboard 100, and the soundtrack itself was number one at the Billboard 200. So yeah, it's like literally everyone is in the Encanto train right now, I guess. And it reminds me of when Frozen and Let It Go was a huge thing several years ago. And yeah, I like the film a lot. It's fun, it's charming, it's entertaining. While I don't think it's necessarily like a top tier Disney animated film, it's not like a top 10 for me, but it's still a great film. And I think the most interesting part here in Encanto, unlike in other Disney animated films, is that there is really no villain. Like there's no like it's really more about generational trauma. It's more really about family conflict. There's no villain that is actually behind all this, all this behind why the house is losing magic or whatever it is. It's really just family conflict. And I think that makes it a very fascinating film, compared to the other Disney animated films. So it's really all just about that. And as I said, the music here is great. Obviously, we don't talk about Bruno. Sometimes it would also just play in my mind. It's really a catchy song. And Lin Manuel Miranda, he created yet again another iconic Disney song. And I believe this is the first time that a Disney song was number one at the Billboard 100 since A Whole New World 30 years ago, from Aladdin. And which it actually surprised me since I thought that like Let It Go was number one, it hit number one, or or maybe Can You Feel the Love Tonight in The Lion King, or like Go the Distance from Hercules. Like I thought those songs were like number one, but apparently it hasn't been since A Whole New World way back. So that tells a lot. So yeah, I like Encanto. It's definitely a great Disney animated film, very charming, and I'm not sure if I have to say go watch it because I believe a lot of people have seen it at this point and listened to the soundtrack hundreds of times. So yeah,
Absolutely, and it is quite ironic that the film, this song that we were talking about, "We Don't Speak About Bruno," which is still on Billboard charts, as you mentioned, is not. You had mentioned that they have other nominations, and that song is not one of the ones that they were kind of noted for. They're nominated for another song. I guess it's best song in a feature or something of that nature. And I think it's very funny that it's not the Bruno song that's the
yeah,
one that is that they've been nominated for. However, that song is the one
yeah,
that
yeah. Because what happened was that wasn't the song that Disney submitted, and I guess they didn't expect that We Don't Talk About Bruno will be the one that will be the huge hit among the songs there. I and I think it really caught them by surprise. But I think, although while we're not discussing original song here, that's why I think even though it's not We Don't Talk About Bruno, I think the other song I forgot. I think it's Dos. Or I forgot, but yeah, it's interesting that it's We Don't Talk About Bruno is the one that became the hit from that soundtrack.
it certainly is. I have seen Encanto, and I thought it was a well-made animated feature. I have a feeling, the Cinemike, that this will be the winner, mainly because it has gotten so much attention
Yeah.
in the animated feature section. In fact, I've never seen an animated feature get this type of attention. Have you?
Yes, and probably since Frozen. Frozen might be the last time that an animated film really gets this big kind of recognition, and not just in awards but in pop culture in general.
It really has. It seems to have struck a core as well. In addition to the attention, it seems to have struck a core with fans, and I've even seen people cosplaying as some of the characters in the feature. So, which I never thought I would see. At least I didn't know at the time that this would have struck a chord with so many people. But it's really nice to see. I'm not going to show you one of the cosplays, but for fans wanting to dress like the characters in the animated feature is just really absolutely remarkable. And as you said, not since uh, so many years ago that we've seen that in any animated film. So it certainly is, I think, probably the one that's going to win this category. However, we have some other films to consider, some other animated features to consider as well. The next oh, and the other thing that I was going to say is that the music is absolutely amazing, and I almost wanted to say that the Heights, which was not a nominated feature, but the music was by Lin Manuel. I felt that Encanto's music was as good as The Heights for me. And I've often said this, and I still stick to this, that The Heights has the best music I've ever heard in a musical in my life. And I've seen quite a few musicals in my day. So I was not surprised that the music from Encanto uh, was so popular in that regard. So, Lin Manuel just seems to have a flair for the music, and it is absolutely amazing. So, if you guys haven't seen it, please go ahead and check out Encanto. Um, the next film, the Cinemike, that's nominated is a film called Flea, and that's FLEE for those of you out there. Um, the film is about a person's sharing his story. It's about a man, a grown man, who is sharing a very traumatic experience in his life. And that experience is the fact that um, he had to leave his home because there was conflict and turmoil in his home country. Um, what were your thoughts about this? It's based on a true story. What were your thoughts about this story about a Afghan refugee who is telling their story um, as an adult about what happened to them so many years ago? What did you think of it, the Cinemike?
Yeah, so Flea is a an animated documentary film. It's also nominated in Best International as Denmark's representative, and also in documentary feature, which is a very rare feat that a film got three recognitions in three different you know a recognition like this, three different categories. So it's directed by, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Jonas Poher Ramusen, and I love this film. This is actually my favorite among all these five nominees, I will say now. I love Flea because it is a powerful story of a name of a guy named Amin, he is recounting his story of uh, of leaving Afghanistan because, as I said, there was a conflict there, and yes, to be a refuge in other countries. And for some who are wondering, like, why, if it's a documentary, why is it animated? It's because, so the director is friends with this guy, I mean, which is also not his real name. Like, he wants to make a documentary, discussing his experience as a refuge, and he doesn't want to appear on camera. So he said, what if we do it animated? If so, what they did is that they recorded their conversations, all the interviews. Then they presented it in an animated format, which I thought was a very innovative way of doing a documentary. I think it's a groundbreaking document. I mean, I'm not sure if something like this has been done before, but this, so far, this is really the first time that I've heard, like, someone does this style of filmmaking where it's a documentary, but we're doing animated since. But yeah, but it's a documentary since they recorded the interview. They're just presenting it in an animated format. So it's very innovative, and it's also very, very powerful story, as I've said, because it's a story for refuge. While, like how he ended up from Afghanistan to Denmark, it was a long journey. It took years. While it may be like a few hours of flight, but his story of escaping Afghanistan, then, he has to, like, he stopped by Russia, but from Russia to Denmark, it was a long journey, difficult journey, and it's a very emotional film as well. And, as here in the Bird Network say, as we always say, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you gotta do is listen. This is a great example of that. It's like just watching his harrowing journey of how, he escaped from Afghanistan. It took a few years before he finally came to a country that is now his home. And also, I think because of what is happening recently in the world, it's also more relevant than ever. The story of Lee is very relevant, more relevant than ever. It's more powerful than ever. And I just love this film a lot. It's actually my number two favorite film of 2021. I was just I was just touched by this story, and I can't believe that someone was able to do this kind of animated film that I never thought could work or should work, or but yeah, they pulled it off of doing an animated documentary film.
Yeah, you make so many good points with this. I do think that this particular documentary and animated feature is very special. Um, in the United States, we have this company that does sort of a uh, public broadcasting, and they have something called StoryCorps. And what they do is that they have people record their stories. They do a like audio recording. You go into a booth, and they'll say, "Well, tell me about yourself," and someone will tell a story. It's maybe about 30 minutes long, and then they put animation to it, and
Oh,
this kind of
okay.
reminds me very much of that. And what the idea of the StoryCorps thing is that they want to preserve the oral history of individuals who are emigrated to the United States. So this does have a feel of that for me. However, I also think that this story is also struck with quite a lot of tragedy. He doesn't just come over and things are okay.
Yeah,
There's a lot going on in in this man's life, especially when he was very, very young, to have to deal with so much tragedy. And I think it does certainly put the focus on world events, especially since we're going through so many conflicts right now, which I'm not going to get into detail about, but I think it does certainly focus on the issue beautifully. And it is, I guess, more or less like an autobiographical story, since this man is telling his life experiences. So it certainly deserves the attention and recognition for Best Animated and International Feature there. So it certainly is a contender. And the next animated feature that is nominated for Best Animated Feature is a feature called Luca. And it is about a young boy in Italy who has some special abilities from the town that he's in, and also about Vespas. Um, and I have to say, the Cinemike, I thought that this particular film was just absolutely one of the sweetest stories I've ever seen. In fact, I didn't know what was going to happen, and I was quite surprised at what was occurring. Not in a bad way. I think that this particular film, Luca, like Encanto, would be very popular. Like, for example, Flea is not necessarily an animated feature for children, but Encanto and Luca, I think, are two that I think any child out there would find amazing, especially Luca, because of its extraordinary story. Um, what were your thoughts of the animated feature, Luca?
So Luca is directed by Enrico Casarosa, and it is Pixar's film. It's a Pixar film from last year, and you know as well know Pixar is no doubt the best animated studio, not just right now, probably of all time. Because look at all the films that they made, whether it's Toy Story or Wall-E or Up or Incredibles or Finding Nemo, Inside Out. You know, the list it goes on and on and on. And I think Luca is yet again another achievement from them. It's a sweet and a charming film, you know, about friendship, and also it's also a coming of age story. And I also love how vibrant this movie is, and I love how breezy the setting is, because it is set in a like a summer town in Italy. And yeah, there's also Vespas, and you know, and also one of the characters is like a fish who can turn into human, or when he's in water he turns into a fish, you know, something like that. And it's a I thought it was this movie, I think, came, you know, because it was released like June last year. I think that was a perfect timing for a film like Luca, because you know, it was released at the time where um we are of we and until now we're still dealing with the pandemic, and you know, we are not able to travel a lot, you know, unless you have to quarantine, you know, you have to undergo all that stuff. But we really can't travel a lot nowadays. You know, who knows, maybe later this year things will really get better around the world, and we can all travel safely without any, you know, you on quarantine again. But I think Luca is a perfect escape. Like it make like you feel like you traveled, you know, in another part of the world when you watch this film. it's very, it's a great for me, like out of this five animated film, I think this is the perfect escapism for this time that we are living right now, because it really feels like you're going on a vacation here when you watch Luca. I mean, at least that is what I was felt when I watch it. And yeah, it's a great film, another great film from Pixar, which is not surprising since Pixar always delivers the best animated films, top tier quality, and it's a well deserved nomination.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead.
uh yeah, I'm yeah, nothing else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. It truly is a beautifully made animated feature. And as I said, I think that this one um, definitely would appeal to children. Um, and it is a family film, so it's not as if it's only for children, but it certainly does have appeal for children. I think it's just so beautiful. Even the landscapes in it just are absolutely stunning. And you're right, it was streamed in the summer of last year, and it's really just a treat to see that these transformations are happening in some of the video here, where they these some of the people in this town have special abilities to transform themselves. So I really do love that about it. And it surprised me. I have to admit that I was very surprised that they had these abilities, and I guess I shouldn't have been surprised because this is what Disney and Pixar would do. But I thought that when they transformed, they became such. They also looked incredibly beautiful as well. Whether they were in, let's say in human form versus, I guess, in mermaid form or merman form, was really just remarkable. So, and of course, we can see the two characters here having their adventure, which also was very, very interesting as well. So, the next animated film animated for best animated feature is also another film that I think is absolutely perfect for families and children. It's a story called The Mitchells versus the Machines. And this particular story is also the type of story that I think would appeal to children and is also family friendly. Um, in this story, you have a family that happens to be um, around when there's an alien invasion. And this alien invasion essentially means that they find themselves in a position where they have to defend the Earth. I thought it was very clever and very entertaining. I also thought that that would be a popular story once again with families and with children. What were your thoughts about the Mitchells versus the Machines?
So the Mitchell vs. Machines, it is directed by Mike Rianda. I believe this is his first. This is his directorial debut, and it is produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are also behind Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and of course they also directed 21 Jump Street, and right now they have the After Party on Apple TV Plus. And so the interesting thing about the Mitchell versus the Machines is that it was originally a theatrical film from Sony. It's a Sony Pictures animation film, but then the pandemic happened, so they sold it to Netflix. So at first I really didn't have any interest to the film, but then the reviews started to came in, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And wow, what a great film. This was a great surprise. And first of all, the main character loves movies, which I think makes it relatable to a lot of us already. Just the fact that the main character is loves movies, and they make a lot of references to movies and filmmaking in general. And it's also a great family story. And because because they were like on a road trip, and then they suddenly have to save the world from this invasion from robots or whatever they are. And it also has Um, and it also has a great voice cast, like Olivia Colman voiced the villain here, then Danny McBride voiced the father, and um, it has John Legend also voicing one of the characters, and his wife Chrissy Teigen. So it has a great voice cast as well, and Maya Rudolph as well. She's the voice of the mother, so it has a great voice cast as well. And I like this film a lot. It's a very, once again, another charming film that's also heartwarming, because it's a story about family, and especially father and daughter. And it's, as much as the story itself might be wacky for some, but it's really a fun, entertaining film that really, I think, it surprised a lot of people. And I think at this point we shouldn't be surprised, since it's from Phil Lord and Chris Miller. But yeah, this is another great animated film from last year. I really like this film, as I've said, and I just love that 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 there is an animated film where the main character loves movies and makes this references. Like, at one point they even reference like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is a reference that you wouldn't expect in a film like this. So yeah, I really really like the Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yeah, I do as well, and, of course, a portrait I think it's, just an extraordinary film. I the other thing that I was gonna say about it, is that, I also think it would appeal to older children, um, whereas Luca perhaps might be, more for a younger, child, younger age, perhaps 7 and under. The Mitchells versus the Machines could definitely be sort of like a preteen, film, and of course another one that any family would enjoy seeing. And I also think that it looks spectacular. In the trailer they do have something that says you don't have to be incredible. You know, and I of course one of the first things that I thought about was that this truly does remind me of The Incredibles. And I think it was the intention is that it was supposed to maybe perhaps remind you of something like that. But I just thought it was so beautifully done, and very entertaining, as you said, the Cinemike. It's so good, and the story is great. Um, Certainly a wonderful animated feature, and congratulations to the people who did that. I'm glad that it went to someplace else and what did actually get put onto Netflix. So that was good as well. Um, and the final animated best feature that's nominated for Best Animated Feature is Raya and the Last Dragon. And this particular animated feature, once again, meant for children, in my opinion, and families, deals with dragon gems and supernatural dragons, along with a character by the name of Raya, a young girl who decides that she has to uh, take a specific path in life. And I really do love that she is doing this. The animation style is absolutely beautiful in it. What did you think about Raya and the Last Dragon?
So Raya and the Last Dragon, which is directed by Don Hall and Carlos Lopez Estrada, um, out of all animated films, this is the one that resonates, at least because the film is inspired, or like a fusion of Southeast Asian culture. Just like including our culture. So yeah, it's a fusion of Vietnamese and Malaysian, or Singapore and Philippines and Indonesia. It's a fusion of different Southeast Asian culture, and it's great to see it in a Disney animated film, where they explore our cultures here and our neighboring countries. And it's a great film as well. I also enjoy Raya and the Last Dragon. It's also a heartwarming story, because they set up, like, in the first 15 minutes, this relationship between Raya and her father, and then she lost him, and then she has to find as the title suggested, the last dragon, because she is like the one who can save the world. It also has a great voice cast. Callie Marie Tran, who played the Rose in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, voice Raya, then Aquafina, voice the dragon, and then Sandra Oh is also part of the cast, and Gemma Chan. So it has a great voice, and also Daniel Day Kim. So it has a great cast, actors that I that I'm a fan of. So I like this film a lot, and it's definitely yet again another different entry as well on the Disney animated library. Showing another culture that um, that most other Disney animated films haven't really explored before, and it's great to see Southeast Asian culture here in a Disney animated film. So yeah, I really like this film, and it's great that it also earned the recognition, even though it was released like early 2021, like March. Around this, it was released around this time last year, and it was still able to hold up and get an Oscar nomination. And it's nice that they were able to maintain its relevancy, at least to make it at least to an Oscar nomination.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you said. And I did want to add that this is actually the film that I want to win the award, for a number of reasons. I just feel like it's just such, maybe the best animated feature I've seen, um, quite some time. You're right about it blending cultures. I think it's just so beautifully done. It truly is an incredible work of art. So for me, this is even though I know Encanto um, is incredibly popular, and you are correct about Flea. I mean, Flea certainly is. Um, an incredible animated feature as well. But I felt like, Raya and the Last Dragon was a very special story, especially dealing with lore and with dragons. I just thought it was absolutely phenomenal. And, it took my breath away, some of it. So for me, that's the film that I want to win. But I have a feeling it's going to be Encanto that may win. Which one do you think will win the Cinemike for Best Animated Feature?
So yeah, if I am voting, my vote will go to Flea, but I think Encanto will win because, as I said, it is a huge hit. Even until now, it's already a few months since Encanto was released in theaters. Then it was released on Disney Plus during Christmas, and we're now at March, and it's still it's still up there. The soundtrack is still being played, you know so many times we're still talking about, we don't talk about Bruno even though we shouldn't talk about him. uh, so yeah, I think it's Encanto. It's just it hit the zeitgeist. Out of all these five films, it's the one that is hitting the zeitgeist right now, which is also perfect timing since Oscar voting is happening soon. It, it's just every like the timing is so perfect for Encanto, which is why I think it's gonna win.
Yeah, certainly. And this is one I really want to watch and see what happens here. Now, in the next category, which is the best international feature, we've already mentioned the movie Flea, which is an animated film that was nominated for best animated feature and has other nominations as well, as you mentioned. So it certainly does deserve attention here. And the film was it's from Denmark, right? The Cinemike.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess it was submitted under that country. But as we said before, it is about an Afghan refugee's story of um, of coming to I guess where he is currently fleeing Afghanistan during a very difficult time. And we already went over the film, but it certainly is extraordinary, and it certainly does deserve attention. And you did note that it was very interesting that it was not only nominated for Best Animated Feature, but also for Best International Feature. So it has this unique distinction for being able to fit in both categories. And do we know if that's ever happened before the Cinemike?
It never happened that a movie gets nominated in like in animated and documentary and international at the same year. It never happened before. And yeah, so this is actually also a historical achievement for Flea that it was able to bag all these three categories.
It certainly is an achievement. And, we're seeing so many very interesting features and records being broken this year. So it certainly is something to acknowledge how amazing uh, the the contenders are for these categories. Certainly a very special year. And so that was one of the nominees for international feature, for best international feature. The next one that I would like to talk about is Drive My Car. And we have spoken about this particular feature before, mainly because it's just so amazing. It certainly, as you had said, or at least I believe, that it has struck uh, a, a zeitgeist, at least I think that's what you said, um, with many people, and that its importance it's just an absolutely extraordinary film. It's got a lot of attention at the film festivals, and you and I can't say enough about this film, and I'm not surprised that it's nominated for Best International Feature. It's not an animated film. It's a story that deals with loss, as we've said before. But boy, it is beautifully done. It definitely shows, from a cultural aspect, how people in this country deal or may deal with loss, and how they go on with their lives. Did you have any words that you wanted to say that you haven't mentioned about Drive My Car? I know you said that this was your favorite film for
Yeah,
2021.
yeah, I mean, we've already discussed Drive by Car so many times in the previous
Mhm.
episodes, and you know, because it's also nominated in Best Picture, Director, and Adapted Screenplay, and and I think it is safe to say that this will win the category since it's also received the Best Picture and other major categories. I think it will win. You know, like out of all the categories it is nominated for, this like a luck to win that that I am willing to bet my entire bank account it will win. And Japan, it is Japan's entry. Japan has been nominated in this category so many times, and it is their 17th nomination. They have won four. The country has won four times before, but three of them are honorary. But still, and Japan has a great film industry there. And it is also the home of one of the best directors of all time with Akira Kurosawa. So yeah, and the film is I'll Drive My Car. As I've said, I just love the film so much. It's my favorite film of 2021. And to those who haven't seen it, especially in the US, luckily it's now streaming on HBO Max. So there's no excuse for you to not watch it. And if you have HBO Max, you can watch it after this probably. It is 3 hours, but it is, and if you were able to watch the Batman the entirety, you could also watch Drive My Car. So yeah, to those who haven't seen it, it is now streaming on HBO Max, which is also perfect timing since we're now weeks, at least when we are recording this, like we are now 2 weeks before voting starts. So I think it's also perfect timing that Drive My Car is now available on streaming. And to those who still haven't seen it, it's on HBO Max. So yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you said, the Cinemike. It certainly is an extraordinary film, and it's not anything you see every day. It's a lovely made feature. I think it's almost altruistic in a bit, in a way, and I think it appealed to so many people just because it is such a lovely film. Um, this one is very special, and I think if it doesn't win in this category, it will win in one of the categories that it's nominated in because it is so extraordinary and has had an effect over, the film industry. As far as I'm concerned, I think people are going to try and capture this feeling that this film seems to have captured. They're going to try. I don't know whether they're going to strike a chord the same way that Drive My Car has, but I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of films that try to do this type of formula for that we're seeing in Drive My Car. I think it's going to have the same influence, maybe not as widespread an influence as Kurosawa, but I have a feeling that this will have an influence over the film industry and people saying, well, can you make something like Drive My Car? Like, I could see people saying, it's like Drive My Car, trying to associate their films with the style that we saw in Drive My Car. So I have a feeling going forward, we're going to see more extraordinary features like this one. So that's the second nominee for Best International Feature. The third nominee is a film called The Hand of God, and it is an Italian film, and it's an autobiographical film. So this would, technically speaking, be the second autobiographical film that has been nominated in this category. Um, as I mentioned, it is based on a young man who grew up in Italy and who seems to be living somewhat of an idyllic life. Um, there in a beautiful setting, absolutely stunning setting, surrounded by family and friends, and of course, it is. I guess it could be considered coming of age as well. But for me, I feel like this particular film really is as profound in a sense, although perhaps not as traumatic as Flee for me, because it does have a tragedy that occurs in the film that disrupts this idyllic setting of this young man. What did you think of The Hand of God?
So, full disclosure, I haven't seen this film yet, and although I am planning to watch it before the Oscars, to caught up, but it is from Paolo Sorrentino, who is a filmmaker that I admire. He previously won this category before for The Great Beauty. Then he also did a TV show called The Young Pope, which has Jude Law as the and I like that show a lot. It's also from Paolo Sorrentino. Like he co-wrote and directed like all episodes. To those who haven't seen that show, I recommend that. And Italy, they have also like one of the most thriving film industries, and this is their 32nd nomination. They have won 14 times before, including a special Oscar and an honorary Oscar. It's also the country that has the most wins in this category, and the hand of God is basically the young Paolo Sorrentino looking back at his childhood, and we've seen a lot of directors do these types of films where they do like a reminiscent of their childhood. Like Steven Spielberg will also do his, which will be released later this year. So directors like later in their career, they would usually do this kind of film where a coming of age story inspired by their own coming of age. And as I said, Italy, they gave us Fellini, they gave us Sofia Loren and Roberto Benigni, like Life is Beautiful, which is another great film from theirs. So yeah, it's also not surprising that it earned an Oscar nomination. And besides the fact that it has great reviews, also like Italy is always shows up in this category, and they just make a lot of great films. And going back, as I said, to Fellini or even the spaghetti western, and yeah, they have always been part of the world cinematic history. So yeah, I am looking forward to see it. Hopefully I will be able to watch it before the Oscars.
Yes, and I have a feeling you will be able to see it before the Oscars. something that I thought was very interesting about the film is the angles that some of the shots are at, and like for example, it's told, a lot of the shots are on the water, and you can kind of see this, but the angles that everybody is filmed at, it's almost as if you're kind of standing with them either on the boat or while they're having lunch or breakfast at the table outside. It is just really a wonderful point of view to give you a sense of what it feels like to perhaps be with this family. And as I said, it is a tragedy, and is autobiographical to this particular gentleman. And it does actually remind me of Flea. So, with that being said, there is a tragedy that happens in the story, but I don't think that, and I'm not even quite sure whether it's that significant or not. I think that the delivery of what happens in the story is just so profound, and it reminds me of the delivery of Flea. However, in Flea, I think you find out a little bit more information earlier on in the story. So I think if you liked Flea, you definitely would like Hand of God. And I also think that the title also might give a clue as to what happens um, to this gentleman that would cause him to name the film The Hand of God. So it certainly is worth looking at, and agree with everything that you've said in regards to the story as well. Um, and so it certainly is a contender for me, but I'm not quite sure whether it can surpass Drive My Car's impact in this particular category, or even Fleas for that matter. I'm not even quite sure how many people have heard of it. I believe it's on. Is it not on Netflix? This
Yes, it's on Netflix, streaming
Okay,
there.
so that might actually work to its benefit. I know, I can't remember when it came out, but I saw it advertised quite a lot. And, my mother and I watched it together, and, we enjoyed it. So we'll see how, we'll see how they vote, and whether or not, it will win. But it certainly did remind me of Flea. So, make sure you have a tissues ready. Um, the next film that is nominated for Best International Feature is a film called Lulana, A Yak in the Classroom. And I have not seen this film. Have you seen this film, The Cinemike?
I haven't seen this film too. This is the film that when the nominations were announced, this is the one that surprised a lot since because when I was predicting the nominees, I was predicting the movie A Hero from Ashghar Farhadi from Iran to be nominated here. But then, Lunana took its spot. And I haven't seen this film, but I watched the trailer and read details about it. And it looks like the story is basically like about a man. Like, I think he was probably planning to go to another country, but instead he was assigned to be a teacher in a remote area, like at the mountains, here in Lunana. And you know and it's a classic story of fish out of water, where at first he is having a hard time adjusting, and then later on he will learn to love the community and have a special bond with them, and then he would have an impact to the people in that community, and also the community to him. It's a classic story of that kind. That kind of story we have seen that times before, but given that it was able to get nominated here, I think speaks that probably it was more than that. And probably it looks like a heartwarming film based on the trailer when I watch it. And it's also Bhutan's first nomination. And they they rarely make it in this in they rarely receive this kind of recognition. And the interesting thing is that I read that last year they submitted this film actually, but then it was disqualified because of some technicalities on the eligibility. And then they submitted it again for this year, and now it's nominated. And I think it's only available on VOD. I believe it's available on VOD, so you can what you can pay and watch it. You can rent it, I guess. But hopefully I'll have also time to watch this film before the Oscars because while I don't think it will win, I don't think it has a chance to win, but it's great that a small film like this gets this kind of recognition. It's I think it's the underdog, like among the five nominees. I think Lunana Ayak in the Classroom is the underdog here, who had a great story road to the Oscars because it was really unexpected. And it's great to hear something like that happening sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, it certainly does make for a good story, and the teacher wants to go to Australia of all places, and I found it fascinating because Bhutan is known for their philosophy of national happiness, I guess is what it's called, where gross national happiness, I think is what they call it. Other countries have gross national product and gross domestic product, and in this country, their focus is on happiness. How happy are the people in the country? And so they do talk about happiness in the story. And, um, you know, I'm not going to say that I assume that everybody there is fully happy and fulfilled, but I do like the idea of them approaching or at least touching on finding that happiness for yourself, um, for a country that's known for the focus on gross national happiness. Um, so for me, I just find it absolutely fascinating. And to be honest with you, the Cinemike, I'm a little surprised that it was not, and I'm not quite sure how many scenes focus on the landscapes of Bhutan, but I'm a little surprised it wouldn't be nominated for best cinematography because of how beautiful the landscapes are in this country as well. But that's okay. You're right about, for a small film like this getting this kind of attention, this type of nomination is absolutely wonderful for them. I couldn't be happier. Um, for them to have this nomination and be recognized in this way. So I certainly do. I'm happy for them in this regard. And as you said, it would be quite a thing if they did win this category. We certainly don't know who's going to win. As I said, I do think it's going to be Drive My Car, but wouldn't it be something if they managed to pull this one off? So, the last film that's nominated for Best International Feature is a film that we have spoken about before, called The Worst Person in the World, and I believe it was nominated for best. Is it Best Original Screenplay? Um,
Yes.
the Cinemike, and it certainly was one of my favorite films of the year for a number of reasons. And you and I have spoken about this film before. Um, and as far as I'm concerned, it really is a beautiful story. Um, and of course, it's a Norwegian film. Excuse me. So it was submitted by that country. Did you have any other thoughts about this film and how they might do in regards to being a contender for Best International Feature?
So yeah, we already discussed this before when we were doing our original screenplay discussion. I I don't think I have anything else to say. I just like this film a lot. As I said, it's a profound film about life and love and discovering yourself and all that stuff. Norway, so this is their sixth nomination, but they have never won. And it's interesting that it is also nominated original screenplay, a very inspired nomination, and I believe it is streaming in the US, maybe on Hulu. I believe it's on Hulu. I could be wrong about that. if not now, maybe very soon. And I guess, you know if it is streaming on Hulu right now, I hope whoever is watching this, you'll watch the film because it's really a great film, profound. Like if you're feeling, I guess, lost in life or down, I think The Worst Person in the World is a great film to watch because it gives you a lot of wonderful lessons about life and love. And it's also entertaining at the same time. It is funny at times as well. So it's not really 100% serious drama. It's also entertaining. So yeah, I really have nothing else to say. I've said everything, in our original screenplay discussion. So I hope just like we Drive My Car on HBO Max, Hand of God on Netflix, Nana is on VOD, The Worst Person in the World, I think it's on Hulu. I think Flea is also on Hulu, I believe. I could be wrong. So my point is that all of these films at least are available to watch on streaming or on VOD. So it is all of them are accessible.
And is your pick for best foreign international feature Drive My Car, the Cinemike?
Yeah, I think I will vote for it if I'm voting. I think it will also win because, as I said, it is also nominated for picture, director, and adapted screenplay. It's like Parasite a few years ago, where it's also nominated in those major categories. So it is. I am willing to bet everything that I have here that Drive My Car will win this category. And I think it's also fascinating. I think it's also fascinating that here in international feature film, three of these films nominated here are also nominated in other categories, which I really really appreciate. As for me, it shows that the Oscars is really slowly now embracing international cinema. Not just focus on American films, because the Oscars really, they're really global. It's not just an American centric award. It's also an international award, and it's great that we're seeing a lot of international films recognized in this year outside the best international feature film. And I like that they're just really slowly embracing international cinema. And I think it's a hint that I think it's a hit that there is really a change that is happening in the academy. It is probably the beginning of the Oscar becoming more international. Hopefully, we'll see more. And it's hard to tell right now if this will continue next year or in the next 2 years, 3 years, because we don't know what kind of films will be released in the future that might also have the same impact as Drive My Car or Parasite, or last year with Another Round, which is also
Roma,
another.
yeah,
Yeah,
Roma
yeah,
is
Roma
another
as
example.
well. And we've been starting to seeing it. So yeah, I just love as well that the Oscars, the Academy is really embracing international feature films more outside North America.
And I one thing I do want to say is that I agree with you, and I also feel like they need to expand the categories for international films, meaning that while there is a category called Best International Feature, I also think there should be a Best International Musical and Best International, and continue some of the categories on for an international section, just to give other films a chance as well, because there are so many fantastic international films out there. Um, and the other thing I was going to say in regards to the animated category, and I don't know whether they do have this as a fact, but it would also be great to have best animated musical or best animated drama, or and best animated, even for some of the films that might be fall into different categories like horror or comedy. I feel like they should add some more categories, and let's see even more films getting nominated for those categories. So I feel like that would be it's definitely something that they should be doing. Hopefully, they will be doing that going down the line. Now, I did want to thank you for joining me today, the Cinemike, and I want to thank everybody who's watching this. Thank you for joining us today on PGS Reviews. And please check out all the PGS All Stars and Reviews episodes to find out more about the creators in our community here in the PGS. The Cinemike, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Cinemike, and you can read my articles on epicstream.com.
Excellent. And for those of you watching, you can always find me, Rrr Mmmm, on Positive Fandom. From Positive Fandom, you can find me on my Positive Fandom channel, as well as Twitch for one word. You can also find me on the Burnett Network with PGS Reviews, PGS All Stars, and streaming with Robert Meyer Burnett. You can also find me on Monday nights streaming with Lorena Creole and Toxic Femininity. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays, you can find me on the Six Scale Man Network with Lael Rockwell. And you can also find me on Midnight's Edge on Friday afternoons at 12 p.m. Eastern with Tom and Andre and Cameron Pasha. And I have a live show that's usually either 10:30 or 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time called Sunday Brunch. So please try and check that out if you can. I also would like to say that I hope you subscribe to my channel, Positive Fandom, as well as the Burnett Network, so that you can set alerts and you'll be notified every time either the Burnett Network posts a new show or stream, or we post one on Positive Fandom. You can also keep the conversation going on Facebook and Discord, and keep up on the shows by checking out the website for the Burnett Network, the Imagination Connoisseurs, and the PGS website. And as always, everybody who comes to watch the show as we come to a close, I sure hope everything is well with you. And always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.